Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Glendale Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission meeting for August 19th, 2019. May we have the roll call?
Sure. Commissioners Babayan?
Present.
Eberly?
Present.
Kalfayan is stepped out. He'll be joining us shortly. Michaels?
Present.
President Pro Tem Wolfson?
Present.
The agenda for the August 19, 2019 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, August 16, 2019. And Commissioner Kalfayan is now with us. Item 2, introductions and presentations. At A, introduction of new Commissioner Kate Eberly.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission. I'd like to welcome our newest Commissioner, Kate Eberly. She has been a Glendale resident, for the past 11 years. She works as a senior strategic consultant for Ignite Strategic Communications. She's also a board member with the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation since 2015. The last 2 years, she's served as president of the board. As you know, the Parks and Open Space Foundation, they provide trails programming, open space and trails programming. And when I say we, the GPOSF, Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, they also have fundraising events, and those funds that come in pay for all the good work GPOSF does. And Commissioner Eberly heads all those programs. And she's also a member of Franklin Magnet Elementary School PTA, and we look forward to working with Commissioner Eberly moving forward. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Onik.
I'd like to personally welcome you to the Commission. I'm really looking forward to working with you, and so a warm welcome.
Thank you. If I could just say it's a tremendous honor to be on the Commission and especially to work with the park staff who could not be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Item 2B, recognition of cruise night sponsors.
Good afternoon. My name is Norma Maurer, Community Services Supervisor. I'm here as a representative of the Glendale Cruise Night Planning Committee. We would really like to take a chance at this opportunity to thank everyone who was in support of our event. Without their contribution, we would not have another successful event. This is our 26th year that we've completed. We look forward to next year as well. It was a very successful event. We added a few highlights this year that were different than last year. So any feedback, we're always happy to take so we can keep moving forward with improving the event. So at this moment, there are a few sponsors that are here in attendance. So we'd like to take this time to present a certificate to them. So President Pro Tem Wolfson, if we wouldn't mind coming down.
Maybe everybody can come down.
Sure, if you want, everyone can come down. There are about 5 people in attendance today on behalf of different businesses. First of all, we'd like to thank Economic Development, and here on their behalf is Juan Gonzalez. How do you want to do it? Maybe on this side. Maybe it's like you could take a photo with. We'd like to welcome Athens Services. This is Liz. We'd like to invite Robin Goldsworthy from Crescenta Valley Weekly. We'd like to invite from Dignity Health, Marie Philippian. And from Porto's Bakery and Cafe, Noel. Again, thanks to everyone who supported the event. We look forward to our 26th annual in 2020. The rest of the certificates will be mailed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is item 3, upcoming council agenda items.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the commission, we do have a few items coming up in the next couple of weeks. First one is August 20th. We have a report for Pacific Park Artificial Turf Project. This is a motion authorizing the city manager or designee to execute a professional service agreement with DVD, David Wolf's Designs, for design services. We'd like to convert the natural turf into artificial turf and add a soccer field in the outfield of the baseball field over at Pacific. On August 27th, we have 2 items. One is the Maple Park Playground donation report, and then a Senior Services Committee update. On September 10th, we have a study session for Fremont Park. That's at 3 p.m. And then at 3 p.m., we also have a Housing Authority meeting for the Glendale Continuum of Care homeless programs, submission of the NOFA 2019 application, and also for the homeless count. That's it for the next month.
Thank you.
Item 4 is commission staff comments.
Does anybody have any comments?
We just like to congratulate the staff for an exceptional job on Saturday. It was a very successful function, and we were all with the city employees and the city fire department, police chief, and everyone was there. Good job. Thank you.
Hi. Anybody?
Additionally, I'd like to acknowledge the conclusion of the Concert in the Park series at Verdugo Park and thank staff for their prompt response in providing signage to direct people towards the parking that was available at the parking lot across the street.
I had a couple of things myself. Let's see. First of all, I attended cruise night, and before all the sponsors leave, I want to say it was really wonderful event this year, and I really liked the way it was done, and I want to thank staff and all the sponsors, even the ones who aren't able to attend today, for their contribution, because we really do appreciate it. Second, I want to second my fellow commissioners' comments. Saturday was wonderful. I want to thank the staff. It was very meaningful to see the kids playing on the Shane's Inspiration Playground at Maple Park. And it was just a really beautiful ceremony, and it was wonderful to meet the people who own that company and who have made such a contribution to all-inclusive playgrounds that, kids can fraternize together, and that everyone has access to those playgrounds, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I did have one question, which is, and this may be off the map a little bit, but I'm wondering what the criterion is for commission consideration of items, because I noticed on recent council agenda there was this contract for bus service, and I didn't remember us having discussed it at all. Does anyone have an explanation of that for me?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the commission, we will research and get back to commission with a no-on-file report for next meeting. Because I believe we have to agendize this item, correct? If we, for discussion, yes.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, if there needs to be a discussion, yes, we do need to agendize it. But just in general, if you're just asking what are the criteria, if it requires some sort of direction on the types of services we're providing or the programs, or if it's a contract for design, like park services, if we're designing a park, or the playground, like CIP type projects, we'll bring it before commission and get feedback before it goes to council for final direction. The bus services, per ordinance, anything that goes over $50,000 needs council action and approval. And in this specific case, the buses, the cost of busing for our programs went over $50,000. So we had to go out and do an RFP. And so when we're awarding a contract, we just need to take it to council. So the reason a report like that generally wouldn't come to commission unless commission would like for it to come to you is because there's really, it's a bid, so we tend to go to the lowest bidder. There's no design element, there's really no feedback on the type of service to add or a design element to add in, so it generally would probably not come to the commission for feedback just because it is, it goes out to bid, we get proposals, it goes to the lowest bidder. So generally, that's kind of how we determine what comes to the Parks Commission and what may not come to the commission and go directly to council. If that answers it, we don't have to agendize it?
No. It was just an informational question. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Next time. Oh.
Good afternoon, President Wolfson and members of Commission. My name is Eileen Asayan, Community Services Supervisor, overseeing the Senior Services Unit. And today I'd like to present you guys our first emergency preparedness event coming up October 5th. And our Commission committee members, Marie and Juan, would like to invite you guys to the event. It will take place October 5th from 10 to 1 at the police department. The event is geared for our seniors and their families to be prepared for an emergency and to have a disaster plan. Thank you. Any questions?
Is there, the time is from 10 to 1, is there any specific program or is it set up as an open expo?
We are currently working on the details. It will be an open expo with meals, so our meals will be delivered to the site, so our seniors will be able to attend also. We are working with the local different organizations to have tools, how to prepare. Our fire department's involved, so we'll have more details as we begin the planning stages.
Do people need to RSVP if they want to attend?
No, there is no RSVP. They just we are going to start advertising on our social media and also our partners that will be working with us.
Thank you for organizing it.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission, we do have several events that are taking place between now and our next meeting, so if you don't mind, I'll go through those now. We do have a Senior Services Committee meeting coming up this Thursday, August 22nd at 3 p.m. at the Adult Recreation Center. We're offering a Wilderness Work Day on August 24th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. Street Food Cinema will be showing Beauty and the Beast at Brand Park on August 24th. We have a CDBG Advisory Committee meeting on August 26th at 2:30 p.m. here in the Council Chambers. We're offering Teen Night Out on August 30th and September 13th and 27th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Pacific Community Center. On August 31st, Glendale Beautiful will be having play music on the porch day at Casa Adobe de San Rafael from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Street Food Cinema will be showing Dirty Dancing at Central Park on August 31st. A medicinal plant hike and discussion will be taking place on September 7th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. Parents' Night Out will take place on September 13th from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. at Pacific Community Center. Riverwalk Workday will be held on September 14th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Glendale Narrows Riverwalk. And then we'll be back here for another commission meeting on September 16th at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one card.
Okay. Yeah, that would be for item 5, oral communications. And I want to just read something out to remind the audience. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The director may refer the matter to the proper section for investigation and report. Thank you.
The card is from James Gregory.
Good afternoon, commission members. Should I start my clock here?
I'll start your clock. If you could state your name for
Okay.
the record, please.
My name is James Gregory. I'm a resident in Glendale for 25 years. I reside at 1309 East Mountain Street, right next to Nibley Park. So,
You can continue.
am I ready to go?
Sure, yes.
Okay, all right. So, thank you for having me. Susan invited me to come down to the commission here and at National Night Out. After I was talking to her, I had no idea she was a commissioner here, but the conversation went such that I'm here today to discuss the goods and bads of Nibley Park. I live next door to Nibley Park. I'm a huge, huge advocate of Nibley Park. I am a block captain in the watching over things from Greenbrier all the way down to the south end of Nibley Park. But from a personal perspective, I've got to deal with a lot of, dare I say, riffraff. And I'd like to formally just address what is going on inside of my living room when I'm trying to enjoy myself. So here's the list if we're ready for it. It's all about noise. And Saturdays and Sunday mornings, we've got box vans pulling in and parking in the red curb. And the doors slam open, and the trays and the tables and the chairs and everything else starts getting unloaded for a party of 50 to 80 people. This is all within 10 feet of my fence line, which is probably about 30 feet of my living room and bedroom. So that sometimes starts at 6 a.m. because everybody wants to get their spot in. That's a noise issue. We've got soccer ball games going on right up and down the fence line. The minor kicking of the balls is no big deal, but the major kicking of the balls is a huge deal. It comes through my walls just like somebody beating a bass drum. And it's uncontrollable. I can't get away from it. There's nothing I can do about it. There is signage there now. And for those who observe the signage that says, take your game over there, everybody's fine. But for those who don't, I got to either deal with it or live with it. And dealing with it has had some problems too. Leaf blowers. Everybody needs the park cleaned up. Screaming two strokes at 7 o'clock in the morning is not my idea of a good time. And it goes on for an hour. And it virtually takes over my life. I can't even have a conversation in my own living room. Okay. Tennis court. The tennis court was there when I moved in. I realize it's there and I got to live with it. But all the yelling and screaming that goes on when these guys think that they're, professional tennis player and need to yell and grunt every time they hit the ball, it gets old after a while, and there's no shutting them down. Nighttime basketball. The light on the court, on the restroom area, gives just enough light down to the tennis court that people can show up at 11 o'clock at night and start a basketball game. Soccer schools, businesses, independent businesses are operating out of Nibley Park. I don't know, I know there's no permit for it, and I don't know if the commission knows that's going on or not. We got drill sergeant tennis court training going on that gets pretty loud. Car radios, boom boxes. People pull their cars up there, open the doors up, just start blasting the radio for their party that's going on. I'm now a part of that party, and I certainly don't want to be. There's the normal riffraff at night that occurs occasionally. It's a lot better now than it used to be. I got 25 seconds here. Barking dogs come in there. They cause my dogs to bark. Barbecues, they're illegal in the park. People bring their own. They light them up. The smoke comes right into my house. I've been using the Glendale Municipal Code 8.36.110 for loud and unusual noises. It seems to fit the criteria, and I've had to make it a police matter when I certainly don't want it to be a police matter. So my time's up.
Well, thank you for coming and bringing all of this. This is more than I even knew when we were talking about it that evening. I don't know. Some of it, I think, if I'm correct, I mean, some of this is out of the control of the commission, certainly, and even possibly of city and staff. What are the rules about? I want to make sure I'm on point with this, but are they allowed to have barbecues in Nibley Park?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of commission, Mr. Gregory and us have in the past worked together in trying to address some of the concerns he brings forth. And you're absolutely correct. In some cases, we're able to make minor adjustments to try and redirect the issues and challenges and noises, such as the signs he had recommended we put in for no ball play in his area. We actually, even for barbecues, we put signs closer to his property to not have people barbecue in that area. But generally speaking, barbecuing in the park is not prohibited. We just do not have our own park barbecues set up in that facility. There are only a handful of parks that are adjacent to open space that we don't allow barbecuing, just fear of, maybe it's igniting a fire and having our mountains go up ablaze. Noise, it tends to be, unfortunately, a challenge for our neighbors near park, but some of that, it's out of our control. Now, after hours basketball playing, that is something, 9 o'clock, Nibley Park, I believe, is signs posted, Nibley Park closes at 9 o'clock. After that hour, police can come and cite individuals for being in the park after hours. That is one of the only recourses we have at that point. Car radios, loud noise, again, these are all enforceable by Glendale Police, and it all matters as to the decibel levels they have them. And unfortunately for Mr. Gregory, by the time police come, sometimes they might notice and turn it down, so you call them and the situation has resolved itself. But I could understand and empathize with Mr. Gregory, the challenges he faces with noise at the park. Some of these is not within our control. As far as the leaf blowers go, we try to get to every facility as fast as we can. Weekends are a lot harder because each individual could have 5 facilities to get to, open and get it clean and ready for users. We have tennis players that want to play exactly at 7, and so it kind of challenges us. We can't start at 6. The ordinance allows us to start at 7, so at times at 7 o'clock could be our blowers in the park, getting things ready for our residents to come in and use. Because once we get to 8 o'clock, the park is already filled, we cannot clean. Then the commission is going to get complaints from the residents saying the park is unclean, your staff is not doing a good time. So it's a delicate balance we try to do at some facilities, including Nibley. One thing we'll consider down the road, we are going to be testing battery-operated equipment. And as far as the noise goes, decibel levels go, they tend to be a little lower. And we can't tell you how well it's going to work. We've met with the American Green Zone Association this past Friday. We're looking at having a few items come in, being tested, and we can select Nibley to be one of our test sites for the backpack blower, one of the backpack blowers. I don't know what else I can add from the list that he gave us. And again, the tennis courts, it really cannot control the tennis players. We've tried different options. We had some kind of a netting that came down to control the ball noise at least, and we allowed the ivy to grow, as Mr. Gregory has suggested, to alleviate the tennis balls hitting the fence.
And that was hugely successful.
Great.
That
good to hear.
solved the tennis ball noise problem.
Yeah.
We still got the yelling problem.
That I cannot control, unfortunately.
Free speech and all that. But one other thing I was wondering about, and I have noticed the soccer little kids' schools in the park, are they allowed to do that, or how's that working?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, as far as organized soccer, I do not believe we don't issue any permits for this facility. So it is not a permitted organized soccer play, as this is more of a passive facility, we look at it, and we don't permit individuals and groups to come and actually play soccer.
So,
now,
I
if
mean,
there's a group picnicking and they grab a ball and they're just kicking the ball around, it is a park. So if we know of any organized, there were some times several months back, maybe a year ago, that there was an organized coaching that was happening. Staff approached the individual, staff informed them that this is not a permitted site. Staff moved that team group to, I believe, Verdugo Park with a permit, so try to alleviate that issue. If it continues, we can have our weekend supervisor, happens to be an audience, pay Nibley a visit, drop in and see if there is organized play happening, and then inform them of our rules, and if they want a permit, and hopefully pretty soon we'll complete all of our soccer fields, we'll just start directing them and issuing permits at those facilities.
I'm sure they're not doing it to be scofflaws, but, they may not know, that they're supposed to get a permit. I'm not totally sure, and I hate to be the Scrooge, because it's cute, the little kids and all that, and the parents love it, I'm sure.
And I agree with that. I love the kids, and I know soccer is the best game in the world for kids as far as group activity
But
goes.
we do want everyone to follow the rules, because
Absolutely.
it's only fair, so they might want
President
to take a look. Yes.
President Pro Tem Wilson, if we are aware of organized activity, whether it's a class or some sort of a clinic, we do approach it. We've had it in the past, and we'll write letters, we'll inform them, and threaten to suspend them from the facilities if they don't come through us to pull a permit. So if this is something that is taking place, we would like to know about it, because then we could actually send staff like Coco suggested, so that we're able to identify who it is and put them on notice. So we will look into that both on the tennis and for soccer, just to see if these are individuals that are there picnicking that are a pickup game, and if it's not, it's organized, then we'll make sure to provide the proper noticing to ensure that they don't come back, because we don't provide permits for that park specifically. And if I'm not mistaken, we also don't provide permits for birthday parties. So if the large birthday parties that take place there are basically without our knowledge, when they call to reserve the facilities, the customer service staff will let them know that parties of 25 or more do require a permit, and Nibley Park is not permittable. So we don't offer permits there. So if they're trying to do a birthday party, they're not supposed, if it's more than 25 people, they're not supposed to be doing it at Nibley, because we do tell them. But some people don't know, they're not aware, and others will just ignore it because our staff will tell them it's not allowed, and that's all we know. We don't know that they're still going to ignore what we tell them and still bring in their tables and chairs and set up for a birthday. And unfortunately, the challenge that staff is faced with, and Armin could probably come up and tell you all about it, is it's kind of hard to stop a birthday party while it's taking place. Like, who wants to go tell an 8-year-old, sorry, but your mom and dad messed up and your birthday is now canceled? So unfortunately, that's what we're having to deal with, is we don't allow it, but we have a hard time stopping it. So if it's a repeat offender and we know that that individual has done it in the past, we might be a little more aggressive the second year. But unfortunately, the first time we see them, we will put them on notice, we'll let them know, but most probably they won't come back the next year and do it at Nibley, so they'll move on. But that's kind of a challenge we're faced with, and we have hours and hours of conversation on how do we address this, and do we go and do we issue citations, do we stop a birthday party? But at the end of the day, you don't want to be the person that tells an 8-year-old or a 5-year-old for that matter that their birthday party is canceled. So
I wonder if we could maybe post, like, somewhere in the park, somewhere where it's prominent and noticeable, that Nibley isn't a park where people can, what's allowed. Because I think a lot of times people just show up, they figure it's a park and it is beautiful, and they just sort of set up and they don't even know that they're maybe breaking a rule.
President Pro Tem Wilson, we'll look at some signage options about park rules that particularly relate to Nibley Park, and see about posting those at the facility. something we can definitely look into, and it might help alleviate some of the challenge. And hopefully they will.
Have you looked at making it a reservable space with the maximum size for the party?
I'm sorry?
Have you looked at making it a reservable space for birthday parties and attaching a maximum size for the party as a way of managing this so that people wouldn't show up so early?
I'm not sure that we have historically, not since my time in the department. We haven't, because it's just not been. And unfortunately, once we do start reserving it, even if it is 20, 25 people, essentially the neighbors are going to have this issue. I know they have it regardless, but once we do start reserving it, we will have more requests. They will be permitted, and then it'll just become a bigger issue. So for parks that are not set up to accommodate large groups for parties, we just don't make it reservable with the hopes that people will not go there because they'll have to bring in their own tables and chairs. And most of the time, these parks don't have picnic shelters. They don't have the tables and the benches. So if there are large groups of people, it's usually where they're bringing in their own because the park won't accommodate that many
That's
people.
exactly what they do, and that's exactly what the problem is. And I know when it's happening because I hear it at 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And for the most part, it's probably like neighborhood families as well. So it's, it's a neighborhood park, and so the families there want to have their children's event. And unfortunately, I mean, it's difficult to live next to a park because those are the challenges. And so we could take a look at signage that may say that, this isn't a reservable park and there shouldn't be parties of more than, 20, 25 people, and see if that helps. But so we'll try to see if that will help.
okay. In closing, I'd like to make 2 comments if I could. Is that allowed?
I think probably, maybe you could send an email to the commission and let us know. Would that work for you?
Sure. I mean, whatever works for you guys works for me.
We're supposed to move on, I think, with our agenda. Yeah, if that's all right with you. Would that work for you?
Yeah, that can work for me.
It gets distributed to all of the commissioners.
Yeah,
and then we'll-
okay, very good. By the way, the playground equipment that went in about a year and a half ago, the kids love it. It's a fantastic hit, and the commission Glendale did a fantastic job of fixing up Nibley Park. And it's a big hit to all the kids. So, good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Before we move on, I do have one question for staff. Thank you for addressing the issue of the rental permits, but if there is something that is visible or seen by the neighbors where a group is setting up tables, chairs, is there a way for them to reach park staff on the weekend to request a supervisor come and take a look at that? Or would the response be to contact Glendale Police?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, Commissioners, Commissioner Michaels, generally speaking, at that point, we have one weekend supervisor with 11 staff throughout all of our facilities, and the weekend supervisor is roaming around the entire city, handling situations and issues that you could imagine could come up given similar situations at other facilities. So residents technically end up calling the police department to address that, and they do reach out to our weekend supervisor, Armin Takakjan, who gets to the facility and addresses the situation. A lot of times, even our staff that are cleaning the site, they have a list of all the permitted reservations, and they know which sites are reservable, which sites are not. They tend to call Armin internally saying, on our radio, say, Armin, we have a party setting up here and they're not permitted, and Armin will go meet them and talk to them and let them know. At that point, the toughest challenge Armin has to deal with is the party's already setting up, everybody's invited. It's really difficult as an individual, even though you're within your right to tell them you must pack up and leave, to do so. And that's what we really face at that time. The larger facilities where we've had parties where they're organized, such as churches and organizations have done it at Verdugo Park. After the first time we've approached them, hey, this is just not a permitted event, it has to be permitted, they always reach out to our staff for the following time they're going to do it. So we see it working when we reach out and speak to them, but I guess the course would be they call the Glendale Police Department, and the Glendale Police Department will reach out to our staff, and our staff will go talk to them. When we do put signs, it'll be the office numbers listed on there, but unfortunately on a Saturday morning, there's really no one working in the office. So during the week, though, when they have any issues or whatnot, there'll be the office number listed they can call for any issues they may have, and we address them.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is 6 consent items. At A is approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on July 15th, 2019.
I will move it.
I second.
Thank you. Commissioners Babayan,
Yes.
Eberly,
Abstain.
Kalfayan,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Wolfson.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, action items. At A is tree gender in Glendale's urban forest. At 1 is the motion to note and file the report.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the commission, last month we had a brief conversation about tree gender based on question the Commissioner Michaels had brought forth in July, was it June, about the tree genders and the email that was circulating. So we reached out to our friends in Public Works Forestry. We have with us today Lauren Click, who is our urban forester. With his staff, they've done some research and they have a note and file report to talk about the gender of trees and how it relates to Glendale and what current policies we may or may not have related to tree gender. And I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Click.
Good afternoon. So let me make sure I can utilize this. Perfect. Like discussed, my staff has prepared a report. We looked at the sum of the urban forest, so that would include city street trees, city parks trees, as well as various parking lots, other open space, where we have inventoried trees. So I'll go through some of that as I discuss this. One thing to keep in mind is we really did try to keep this not technical, but we are an office of arborists, so if something technical comes in, please let me know. I'll be happy to clarify. So in sum, only 7.3% of trees in our urban forest have the ability to be male or female. And so within our forestry section, we don't specify a preference one way or another. And I'll go into a little bit more next about what that exactly means. And so field observations that our office did partake on some of these individually male or female trees suggests that the majority have been installed without preference. We also reached out to our nurseries that typically supply the city, and I think the same is true. You'll notice I used the word dioecious there, so I'd like to define a little bit about tree gender itself. As we did research, we found that gender doesn't really apply to trees in the way that it might to people. So a more accurate term would be flower type, hence the quotes in gender on the opening of this report. So there's 2 main flower types of trees. Dioecious, those are the trees that can be male or female. That's about 20% of trees worldwide. So the majority are monoecious, meaning one where it's a tree that would have either one flower with both male and female parts, or 2 different flowers on the same individual tree that would have male or female. So, and that is the next slide actually. So dioecious trees are, I think, the concern that we've heard from not only the commission, but from some of our community members, because I think there is some questions we've fielded about specific trees that might be male only, as opposed to some that might be have flower types of both male and female. So monoecious trees are that particular type of tree. Some have what are called perfect flowers, and so that's something, if you think about some of the fruit trees, apples, plums, peaches, things like that. Those might be perfect flowers. Others might have imperfect flowers. So that's like an oak tree where you have some flowers producing pollen and some producing acorns or the fruit. So our sum total of city trees is about 48,500. Again, almost 93% are monoecious and 7.3% produce pollen and fruit on separate trees. So that means we'd be looking at probably half of that 7.3% being male or female. Most common trees in Glendale, these are the species that are dioecious. The most common, I'd suppose, male or female tree is the Chinese pistache, and that makes up 1.5% of our total urban forest population. These numbers are actually pretty comparable if you separate parks and city streets, because we found that the ratio is almost the exact same for parks trees and for street trees, which is part of why we combined the two. So in terms of what the forestry section does, we don't request or specify male deciduous trees or dioecious trees. The only tree that is the case for is the ginkgo. I think a lot of people are aware that the female ginkgo has a fruit that creates a pretty stinky situation around the city, and so that's one tree that is selected for as male. But the majority are not preferable one way or another. And in fact, in discussing with our supply nurseries, a lot of times they're not aware of the actual gender of one of these trees because they grow from seed, and it usually takes sometimes 5, 8 more years for a tree to reach maturity and have fruit one way or another. So I did want to say that tree selection, it's governed by the Municipal Code 12.40, and within that there is a reference community forest management plan. And so these documents are written to industry standards and best practices. The species selection is determined by a lot of factors, as you can see there. And I think a big portion of that is diversity, because I wanted to highlight that Glendale actually has an incredibly diverse urban forest. We have over 330 species in our urban forest, the most common being a magnolia tree, and a magnolia only makes up 8% of our total canopy. And speaking as someone who came from Northern California earlier, I know a lot of cities up there would die to have that type of diversity. We're incredibly lucky here because of the climatic factors and just either luck or great strategic planting from our predecessors decades ago. So like I mentioned, our section did do a field survey of some of the more common male or female trees. This is what's called a podocarpus or a fern pine. We're lucky this time of year it has fruit, so we can see, okay, that is a female tree. It's unfortunately not exactly easy to say one way or another, because when we went to Brand Park to look at some pepper trees, some had those little peppercorns, so we knew they were female trees, but some don't, and we're just not sure if they're not flowering or if they are in fact male trees. One example I'd like to highlight is the Chinese pistache. Since that is 1.5% of our canopy, it's the largest presence of a male or female tree. And these trees are too young for us to tell one way or another. These trees were planted about 6 years ago, so we can estimate maybe they're 8 to 9 years old, and we still haven't seen their little fruiting drupes one way or another. Talking to nurseries, it's not really common either way. They grow from seed and they ship them out. So I did want to add a couple of notes at the end of this just to highlight how lucky we are in terms of how diverse our forest is. On the East Coast, I understand it's a pretty big problem in terms of nursery selection. So a lot of maple trees are incredibly common up there, where they are all male trees, since they are dioecious male trees, and they cause a lot of issues with pollen at the same time of year. But here we don't have that, and in fact what's interesting and I think lucky from our perspective is that a lot of cities are looking to California cities, not necessarily Glendale, but certainly San Francisco, Los Angeles, to see what type of species diversity they should look for. And beyond that, I think we are incredibly lucky again that none of our species make up sometimes 30 or 40% of the canopy, which is the case in some Northern California cities and certainly on the East Coast. And that is the information that forestry hopes would be helpful for that little definition.
Thank you for this report. The larger question, going back, I believe, till last year, there was a discussion or a question I raised when olive trees were being planted. Mm-hmm. And the term used was they were fruitless olives. So I had raised the question of pollen allergies, and does the issue of pollen and allergies factor into the selection of trees, and how does that work? Sure. So one of the factors that we look into is how the neighborhood approves or doesn't approve of a tree. So I think the way that you see that typically, an example is one street might have similar species, or a neighborhood might request a certain species together as a block, and we'll accommodate that. In terms of specific allergies, we don't take into preference one way or another since it is so varied. That being said, we do try to avoid trees that are poisonous or have an irritant quality. But in terms of allergies, I think it is really varied. And olive trees do make up such a small portion of our canopy, and they're not currently on our recommended or approved designated street tree list. So that wouldn't be something that we'd plant in a public space, typically outside of some specific project that I'm not aware of at this time. Well, I know with some desert cities like Palm Springs, Las Vegas, olive trees, mulberry trees were encouraged because they were able to adapt to that climate. Mm-hmm. But they are also prolific in producing pollen. And I know Las Vegas made a concerted effort to have those species of trees removed and replaced for that reason. Mm-hmm. And just wanted to have a larger discussion about pollen, not necessarily with the species, but just of how those trees are produced or selected and planted, and what the general overall plan for urban forestry and the urban canopy is.
Sure, and that's certainly something that we take into consideration. I mentioned the community forest plan, and so that is revised every 5 years. I'm not sure the specific year right now, but it's about halfway there. And so that's something that we take into consideration in terms of what species would we want to plant. We do try to look at cities that have a little of a warmer climate than Glendale does currently, because our own foresters within the Forest Service have said we're looking at this type of increase in temperature. So that's certainly something that we're considering at this time. We haven't reached a determination about even the species that we might be interested in planting more of as an urban forest. But what I think, again, we're lucky compared to some of those desert cities where they planted a lot of mulberry or a lot of ash tree, for example, that do have significant pollen problems. The percentage of our population is not anywhere near that amount, and I don't foresee that changing based on just internal conversations and the documentation that we have for past and future urban forestry plans. But it's certainly something we'd want to consider.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to also thank you for the report and just say, I really am a tree hugger, and I'm glad that we are maintaining our urban forests so well, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I would just like to request, when you do revise that plan, if you would consider bringing that back before the commission just for public comment and so that we can make the public aware of that plan.
Sure. I believe we would go in front of council as well for that, but I would have to check with my supervisors, but certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Do we have to vote on this?
Oh, yes.
It's a motion. So I will move a motion to note and file a report regarding tree gender in Glendale urban forest.
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioners Babayan,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Hafayan,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Wolfson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Okay, item 7B. Sorry. 7B is aquatics program fees for year-round programming. At 1 is a resolution eliminating various summer aquatics program and swim lesson fees, adopting the eliminated fees under new names for year-round use, and establishing new fees for monthly pool entrance passes, and recommending that the Glendale City Council incorporate into the comprehensive citywide fee schedule the changes made to the CSP department-wide fee schedule, effective October 1st, 2019.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission. That's a big resolution, and we're sorry. It's really a lot simpler than it sounds. Essentially, over the past 8 years, as we've been, well, actually plus, since we've developed our aquatics program many years ago, we have adopted many of our entrance fees as summer fees. So throughout many of our resolutions, specifically resolutions 12.4 and 15.2, fees for the aquatics program were established as summer entrance fees or summer program fees. We have received Measure S funding to operate the aquatics program as a year-round pool, the Pacific Community Pool, year-round this fiscal year in 1920. And because of that, we realized we need to change the description of our fees officially and remove the title summer from them and reestablish them as just entrance fees so that they can be used both during the summer and during our year-round operations. So a large portion of this resolution is simply to change those fees. I have a chart here of the ones where we're changing the names of the fees to try and simplify it a little bit. We are changing our youth swim lesson 1 week program. It was a summer youth swim lesson 1 week program. We would like to call it a youth swim lesson half session. And there was a summer youth swim lesson 2 week session. We would like to call that a youth swim lesson full session. So all of our fees are removing the summer and to some extent clarifying what they are. For every fee except the swim lessons, and I will come back to those, the fee is really, and I'm going to see if I can scroll down on this. It doesn't look like I can. I apologize.
Do you want this, or do you want me to do it for you?
See if this will work. Okay, so for our pool entry fees, all we are doing is changing them, removing the term summer from the entry fees and renaming them as an entrance fee. This is the same for our water polo registration and our swim team registration fees. They used to say summer water polo and summer swim team. We are changing them to just water polo and swim team since we will be offering year-round non-competitive programs for the kids to stay in shape throughout the winter. And the same goes for our drop-in exercise programs, our 15 punch passes, and rentals that are not listed on here because they didn't even require the name to be changed. So that is a summary of just the changes of those names. I'm going to come back to the swim team or the swim lesson programs. In our original resolutions, our swim lesson programs are titled as a 1-week or a 2-week lesson. A 1-week lesson is traditionally between 100 to 105 minutes of instruction, depending on whether it's a 25-minute class or a 35-minute class on the weekends. And a 2-week session is the same thing. It's 200 minutes to 210 minutes of instruction. And that just depended on whether it in the summer is a 25-minute Monday through Thursday class for 2 weeks or a 35-minute Friday, Saturday, Sunday class for 2 weeks. We would like to drop the term, the week title as part of that because we found in the year-round programming, we may not be able to offer classes every day, Monday through Thursday for 2 weeks. So we would like to offer the same amount of swim instruction in a full session, but it might be over a whole month. We might meet Monday and Wednesday for an entire month for 35 minutes. That way the children still get the same amount of instructional time for the same fee that it was before. We just won't title it 2-week or 1 week. It will just be a full session or a half session. So that's the only change to those swim lesson fees. We are asking to add on some new fees, and that's let's see if I can scroll down on this. Yes, okay. So we would like to add on some monthly unlimited entrance fees. These are the only new fees that are coming to you as part of this proposal. We do have existing summer unlimited recreation passes, and those allow people to come in for the entire summer. If a parent purchases a pass for their child, let's say, they can come in any day, rec swim, through the entire summer. We don't want to eliminate those or change those fees, so we're asking to add on just a monthly lap and recreation swim unlimited pass to be used during the year-round times. We are proposing that youth ages 5 to 11 years old can purchase a pass for $10 per month, and they can come in as often as they want for a month. Youth 12 to 17 would be $15 per month. Adults 18 to 54 is $40 per month. And 55 plus is $15 per month. And those are in line with all of our other monthly or 15 punch pass fees that already exist, as well as our entrance fees. We're trying to keep our entrance rates very affordable for people. So these are not an increase over the other existing fees. We've just extrapolated out the cost on what would have been a 15 punch pass and said, okay, if they came a few more times, this is an average monthly pass for that person. If they came every single day, this is a huge savings over what they would pay. That is our fees in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions about them.
Have you considered with your fees with the increase of minimum wage? Is it incorporated in this new fees?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission, the aquatics program has traditionally not been a self-supporting program, so our fees have always remained low cost to the public. We do not try to cover all of our costs with the fees. These are nominal entrance fees in order to recoup a little bit of the money, but not everything. So we have not raised our rates as part of the increase in minimum wage.
All your wages, all your entrance fees are the same. It's the same level. So there's no suffering from the neighborhood. So.
Correct.
In the fiscal analysis, you note a generating approximately 13,800 for this year. As you are going now to year-round, do you have any analysis on the previous years so that we can compare that?
President Pro Tem Wolfson and members of the Commission, I don't have the actual revenue that is from the summer months at this point in time. We will be bringing our report to you. And I apologize, off the top of my head, I don't remember what summer recreation swim entrances have generated in revenue. We did an analysis on other pools, what they charge, and about how many people we anticipate will come in on a daily and monthly basis based on our existing fees and the sale of some of these new monthly passes. And that's how we came up with the 13,800. We are anticipating dramatically lower participation, obviously, than our summer months. In the summer, we have foot traffic of over 1,000 people a day coming through that pool for all the different uses. We're thinking it's going to be more like 40 or 50 people coming through just because per day, because it's winter and the kids are in school, so we won't have that huge recreation swim and swim lesson turnout. So the figures were based on calling other cities and finding out about what their participation figures look like and looking at what we anticipate. We will bring you the numbers from this past summer operation in our annual report. I believe it's coming next month, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
I had a couple of things. First of all, I just want to make sure I'm clear that the non-summer passes, that's just for the non-summer months. Is that correct?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, we would make this a fee that would be available year-round. Should a parent next summer want to just purchase a monthly pass and save a little money over a summer unlimited pass, they could certainly do so. It would only be good for the month that it's purchased in.
And then on the revenue side that my fellow commissioner brought up, I actually brought, I went back to my old agendas and found the 2018 information, and it seems like maybe that 38,000 was based on, or at least partly based on some information from the prior year. I guess you're just guessing a little bit on what the new fees will bring in. Is that right?
President Pro Tem Wolfson, the 13,000 is an estimate in addition to what we bring in the summer. So the 13,000 isn't just the year-round; it's the extension to year-round. So the summer operations would essentially remain the same. So if you have the report in front of you, that is the summer numbers from last summer. So the 13,000, and of course it's a conservative estimate because we don't really know. We're hopeful that it will be more, but we stayed with a conservative estimate as to what we anticipate we will be bringing in for the remainder of the year through up until next summer. So the summer numbers would essentially still remain the same because the summer operations shouldn't be shifting. We're just anticipating bringing in an additional 13,000 in revenues based on the attendance at the pool beginning September through next May.
Thank you for explaining.
I have a quick question. So the summer unlimited pool entry pass, that's still on, like if they choose to, they okay. Cool.
President Pro Tem Wolfson and yes, members of Commission, we will not be changing the summer unlimited pass. We are proposing to keep that as it is, and this is an additional monthly pass option that parents or families could choose to purchase.
Okay, then I have to move it if we have no questions. So I have to move, approve a resolution eliminating various summer aquatic programs and swim lesson fees, adapting the eliminated fees under the new names for year-round use, and establishing new fees for monthly pool entrance passes.
I'll second.
Commissioners Barbayan,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Ralphian,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Wolfson.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, 8 reports, information only, Citywide Sports Annual Report.
Good afternoon again. I'm Gabrielle Golia, Senior Community Services Supervisor. I shouldn't have sat down so quickly. So let's see. Clicker. It's right here. All right. I have for you today a brief report on our citywide sports program. The Glendale Sports Complex operates, the staff at the Glendale Sports Complex operates both the Glendale Sports Complex and all of our citywide fields and sports-related programs in Glendale. This is a picture of Montrose Park. Our maintenance section did some amazing work out on Montrose Park this past year for the Little League. So I wanted to share a really beautiful picture of how Montrose was looking right at the beginning of the Little League season. This is an example of one of our citywide fields that we have out in Glendale. We do have 12 youth fields in Glendale. Babe Herman Ball Field is a minors youth baseball field. Brand Park has both a minors youth baseball and a t-ball field. Dunsmore Park is a majors baseball, so both older kids and adults can play on that one. Glorietta Park is one of our softball fields. Montrose Park Ball Fields has both a softball and a minors youth baseball field. Pelon-Coney is an intermediate baseball or a softball field. It's typically used for softball, but some of the groups do use it for baseball as well. Shoal Canyon Ball Fields, we have 3 ball fields at Shoal Canyon. We have a softball, a minors youth baseball, and a majors baseball field. And at Verdugo Park, we have our softball field. So aside from, or in addition to all of the fields that we coordinate rentals for out of the sports complex, we also oversee the tennis program. So that would be the vendors at 2 of the tennis parks in Glendale, both Fremont and Glorietta Park. And we also oversee out of that section the aquatics program, the wading pool program, the Vertigo skate park, and the swimming pool. However, we're just reporting on sports today. We'll do aquatics another time for you, as well as the skate park. And in addition to all of those, we also do contract classes. So our contract classes, we offer, these are just a glimpse at the types of classes we offer. We have both youth and adult classes offered in all of these areas, except for badminton is adults only. It's a club program. Our badminton program is a drop-in program at Glendale Community College that we offer fall through spring. There were 555 participants in this fiscal year as compared to 532 last year. It's pretty consistent. As you can see, all of our programs kind of have a general consistent, nothing hops out at you over the years. Overall, we have noticed some drop in participation in many of our programs. That's been a continuing trend in contract classes. Let's see, we've got adult volleyball. That is another drop-in program that we offer at Hoover High School. We also have volleyball at Pacific Community Center as a drop-by program. This is specific to the Glendale Community College program. We offer tennis every season for adults and youth at both Montrose and Shoal tennis courts. And we have youth soccer, various programs of youth soccer, not at Nibley. These are our programs that are offered at the Glendale Sports Complex, Glorietta, and Dunsmore Park. As I mentioned, we've seen a consistent decrease in participation in our contract classes over the past few years. And in talking with all of the staff about why we're seeing this, a lot of us feel that a big portion of it is the change with the Glendale Unified School District from Thursday folders over to Peach Jar. The Glendale Unified School District now does all online electronic flyers, and they charge the city a pretty exorbitant fee in order to advertise there. And it's not a school district fee, it is a Peach Jar fee. So we have reduced our advertising through the school district because of that, and that is a huge decrease in the number of children and families that we're reaching on an annual basis. So we really do think that a lot of our drop in participation has to do with that. Our marketing crew, Norma Maurer is our supervisor in charge of marketing. She puts together an annual list of the locations that we can take our marketing booth to. We do hit the schools at their back-to-school nights and their open house night at the end of each year, and we put up our marketing booth at as many elementary schools as we possibly can. We pass out our leisure guides and advertise at those locations, but it's not quite the same as getting a flyer or a leisure guide in every Thursday folder. So that does seem to be our biggest reason for the drop in participation. So here are our 12 baseball fields or softball fields that we do rent out. We have the possible permitted hours listed there. You'll see a couple of those are lower, and that's because we took into account those fields do not have lights. So people wouldn't be renting those after dark. So those are the potential permitted hours between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then in the far right column, you can see how many hours we actually rented those fields out. This does not reflect field closures for maintenance. So some of those lower fields, the fields with lower numbers of reserved hours may be because we had a big field closure. Like, for instance, Montrose Small had a very large field closure last year, and so it could have been even more hours reserved, but we needed to close it and take those fields down in order to let maintenance do some work on them. The number of hours have dropped in 2018-19, the total number of reserved hours. In 18-19, we reserved the fields 28,250 hours. The previous year, it was 37,143 hours of reservation time, and much of that is due to maintenance. The staff and rain. We did have a significant amount of rain in this reporting period, and fields were closed and reservations were canceled. In addition, staff at the complex have been meeting with maintenance staff to set up annual maintenance closures, fields that go down for months at a time in order to do much needed maintenance on them. I understand that an email was sent to the commission concerning field allocation, so I wanted to touch on our approved community youth sports groups and the policy concerning them. We offer all of the fields to the approved community youth sports groups for free during their season of sport. Outside of their season of sport, they are able to rent the fields at the nonprofit rate, and it is first come, first serve outside of their season of sport. These are our current approved community youth sports groups. The list can change depending on new groups popping up if nonprofit local groups come in. The department does not offer competitive youth sports programs to the community. So we have partnered with the local youth groups such as Little League, AYSO, Home Minutemen in order to provide youth sports to the community at a low cost. These groups must be open to everyone. They can have a skills assessment, but they cannot have tryouts. They cannot limit participation in their leagues based on talent. They have to be available for everyone at a reasonable cost in order to participate in them. And their members have to live, 60% or more have to live within the Glendale Unified School District boundaries in order to qualify as an approved community youth sports group. So when those criteria are met and they have submitted their application and all of their proper documentation and paperwork, they will be considered in the next season of sport for priority booking and for free fields or free rentals on our citywide fields. They do have to pay for the Glendale Sports Complex still, but the 12 citywide fields that we were discussing here are available for free. When the youth groups have not booked their time, we do make the fields available for private rentals. Even though this year showed a decrease in the total number of hours reserved, we actually generated more revenue. We generated over $50,000 this fiscal year. Last year it was a little over $41,000. So what that meant was that we had the youth groups were affected by the multiple field closures due to rain and due to maintenance, but our private renters were still able to sneak in on weekends when the fields were available. So we actually had an increase in revenue from private renters, although the youth were given the opportunity to use the field as much as they could when it was open. Here is a snapshot of our fiscal impact for the citywide sports account. As you can see, our salaries and benefits and maintenance and operation did go up in this 2018-19 fiscal year. It is mostly due to increased staffing costs. The liabilities for salaried staff and hourly staff also does hit our maintenance and operation budget, so the majority of that increase is due to salary costs going up with minimum wage. The program is operated, was operated up until July 1st, partially out of the general fund and partially out of the special revenue fund. In this fiscal year, the special revenue fund has collapsed into the general fund, so all operations are now out of the general fund. These were our revenue sources for the 18-19 fiscal year. As you can see, it's pretty evenly distributed between our tennis concessions. Those are the operations of Fremont and Glorietta Tennis Park. The vendors there do pay a monthly rental fee. Our sports leagues, which is our basketball program, we use Clark Magnet School to operate our basketball program. The revenue is deposited here. However, that is part of our sports complex operations as far as leagues go. So that specific portion is reported on under leagues, but the revenue was in this account. So we did want to represent it here. Field rentals and contract classes. So again, they're all close to even quarters on the distribution of revenue. Community outreach for our field citywide sports programs is department newsletter, our city's webpage, word of mouth, and our marketing booth is part of that word of mouth. We get out and go in person to those elementary schools and try to recruit our parents into our programs through those programs. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have and respond to any questions you may have about the approved community youth sports groups in light of the email that had come in.
Question. I'm concerned that classes are dropping and that you think it's due to Peach Jar. Does the district know that?
They.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, Commissioner Eberly, we have communicated through our PIO's office when they first went live with Peach Jar. We did communicate with them that it is impacting us and we can't really afford to advertise on Peach Jar to their families, but unfortunately the district has made that decision to use Peach Jar and go away from the Thursday folders and the emails. So that's not really up to the district. That's the contract they have, and that's Peach Jar requires anybody that's advertising anything with a cost to pay for that advertisement. So if we're advertising our fall festival, which has no cost or entry fee, that has no, we don't have to pay for that. But if we're advertising any of our classes or any of our leagues that there is a cost for entrance, we have to pay for. So yes, we have communicated that to GUSD, but we're told that that's the way Peach Jar operates.
It seems like it would be in the interest of the district for all of the students to be as involved in low-cost sports as possible. So I wonder if there is something that we can do to encourage that. And I'm also just wondering what you're planning to do to close that gap, if you have ideas. I mean, I assume this is something you think about a lot.
Yes, President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the commission. We are exploring trying to place some of our classes at the school sites. That is not as easy as it sounds, just in the sense that we can't necessarily go to the district and say, we would like to put some of our classes in the after-school times on your school location in order to capture those children. It means we have to have an instructor for every one of the locations, and we have to work directly with each principal. So it's something that we are exploring, trying to reach out to fill any gaps. The schools do have some programming already at each of the locations in their after-school times, and so we think that some of our participation has shifted over to those programs a bit, and that may be a part of our loss of participation related to the Peach Jar advertising. If the parents were seeing our programs, they may choose to come to us rather than go to the school location. But that is one idea that we've been trying to expand upon in order to bring more classes on the locations and increase the participation back. Another Another piece of that puzzle is that we do see increased club activities going on. So some staff believe that some of our loss of participation is due to the fact that kids are becoming more competitive. They don't want to play in a Kids Love Soccer program, which is an instructional program that the city offers. They want to be competing even at age 4 and 5 already. And so they're shifting over to a club mentality and a club program where they can actually compete at that age. A lot of the phone calls we get are from parents saying, I don't want instruction, I want my child to compete. And since we are not offering competition programs for the classes, we're offering instructional programs, we think that some of that loss is due to that competition level. And so some of it has been a shift to renting the fields to those club groups in order to make sure the kids are still able to use the fields here locally, but they may not be in our own programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In regards to the email that was sent to the commission, I do want to confirm that a response was sent to that individual.
President Pro Tem Wolfson and members of the Commission, I sent an email to the individual. I let him know that the Commission had received his email and that some discussion on citywide sports and the approved community youth sports groups would be on the agenda today, and I invited him to the meeting today, and also invited him to give me a call at any time and discuss any of his concerns and the process in which to permit fields. And as of the time of the meeting, I hadn't heard back from him.
Thank you.
I just was wondering one quick thing, and this may be off the wall, but I noticed there's a lot of fairly clear requirements, and there's paperwork involved and all that, and I wonder if the city's Innovation, Performance, and Audit Division ever comes around and checks any of that stuff.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, we have not had them check this particular policy. It is a department policy that was created by the director a number of years ago prior to Mr. Belinikian in this role. But anytime that they are out to audit our programs, or if we feel that there's a lack, we can certainly reach out to them. And if we're missing anything and we would like their assistance, we can also certainly reach out to them to review policies and see if they have any thoughts on it as well.
But I guess you guys keep track of all of that okay, got it.
Yes.
No more. Thank you.
While we are touching on keeping track of things, the total number of possible hours of field use versus what was actually in use is very useful. But if you could have that maintenance category for the time that the fields are unavailable, possibly the rain closures for weather, and I'd also like to see if, as some of these fields are being moved to artificial turf, if that would be separated out so that we could see the impact of an artificial field versus a natural turf field.
Certainly, we can definitely add those categories onto the next year's report. None of our citywide fields at this point in time are artificial turf. These are all natural grass fields. But if these fields or others are added into the mix that are considered citywide fields, we certainly can report on that to give a bigger picture of what kind of impact maintenance and rain has on the overall usage of the facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission, the record will show that Commissioner Kalfayan left the meeting at 3:51 p.m. Next on the agenda is 8B, 1 Glendale After School Youth Sports Program Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission, city staff. My name is Sabah Garabidian, Senior Community Services Supervisor, and I'm going to be presenting the One Glendale After School Youth Sports Program Annual Report for 2018-19 fiscal year school year. So the One Glendale After School Sports Program started in fiscal year 2015-16. The program was created based on the findings of a community needs assessment spearheaded by Dignity Health Glendale Memorial Hospital. In the first year, we launched the program. We launched it at 4 school sites in South Glendale. The geographic area identified by the health needs assessment where the children were at highest risk, and it was the most underserved part of the community. And the sports program was created to tackle some of the challenges of childhood obesity, as well as providing some recreational opportunities for children after school. The One Glendale program is for 4th and 5th graders as it was developed, which is about 9 to 11 years old. And it provides a means for families to enroll their children in some sort of after-school programming where we provide recreational play, semi-structured activities for our kids to learn a specific sport for every 8-week season. And then we alternate sports after the end of 8 weeks. And some of the things that we notice is increase in confidence, self-esteem, leadership abilities, grades, and we'll go on throughout the presentation. So as I mentioned, the target population are children who are unsupervised after school, don't have a place to go. Those are the ideal kids that we want. The program builds on leadership, promotes teamwork, has improved participants' grades, and improve the way they make their eating choices and promoting a healthy lifestyle. The program is also a vehicle to incorporate a nature education component, a way for participants to enjoy Glendale's great outdoors. The major sponsors for the program since inception 2015-16 include the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, Dignity Health Glendale Memorial Hospital, Adventist Health Glendale Foundation, along with their Champions for Change grant. Obviously, Glendale Unified School District, as it's a collaboration with GUSD, and recently Glendale Water and Power has joined in sponsoring the program as well. So the program currently takes place at 8 school sites: Columbus, Edison, Jefferson, Mann, Marshall, Muir, and R.D. White elementary schools. The sports program covers flag football, volleyball, basketball, and soccer in that order. Every sports season, we have the Glendale Outdoors Nature Education component. We have nutrition and health component through Adventist Health, where they do BMI measurement, measure their weight, measure their height, and provide a nutrition education component, and then do a post-program evaluation as well. And then we have our sports experiences, which is a live game experience at a local sporting venue. The program is based on the following model. It uses GUSD's actual school sites as the kids' practice locations. So after school, when the kids are out, they stay on campus and practice at their school site from the time of dismissal until 5 p.m. Practices are Monday through Thursday. We don't practice on Friday, so we don't compete with other GUSD after-school programs. And then one time a week, whether it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday, they'll be bused over to Pacific Community Center out of the 3 seasons. Volleyball, they might get bused to Pacific Community Center or Maple Park Community Center for volleyball season, and that's where they will have their games. In most cases, the principals will recruit the participants. Sometimes the principals will delegate that to their PE coaches or their office staff as well, but they're usually really involved throughout the entire recruitment process. EELP staff provide training to our city employees, our city staff that are the coaches, and what we try to do there is keep continuity on the way we handle the kids after school. So the kid knows the same rules, requirements, regulations, same procedures for lockdown while they're in EELP, the same as in our One Glendale program. GUSD's nutrition services provide snack after school 4 days a week, and that's really important because some of these kids don't get home until 5:30, 6 o'clock, so they haven't really had anything to eat between lunch and dinner. So that additional 4-hour snack is really good for them. And then on a typical day, we have 16 recreation leaders on each of the 8 campuses, so 2 per site, working with our kids. As I mentioned, the GO program, the Glendale Outdoors program, is a program sponsored by the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation. What it does is every season we take as many participants as we could fit into a school bus and take them up to either Duke Community Wilderness Park, Brand Park, or the Glendale Sports Complex, depending on the season and what the activities are going to be. There they do some outdoor crafts, they'll take a hike, interpretive, they'll do an outdoor interpretive hike, and then an environmental education component as well. So it takes the program is about 3 hours, give time for travel there and from. And if there's room on the bus, we will accommodate families as well. If somebody's parent wants to tag along, they're welcome to do so. priority seating is given to the kids. And we always encourage them, why don't you just meet us there? If you have the means to travel to the location, meet us there, and you could also participate as well. So I briefly touched about game times and locations. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are game days. Games are typically around 3:30 in the afternoon. First game's at 3:30, next one's around 4:10, 4:15. All teams play at least one game once a week. There are some times where they will double up on games, so they'll play a Tuesday, Thursday game or a Monday, Wednesday game. That's just to fit it into our 8-week season. All players have to play during every single game. There is a mandatory playing time for each of the sports, whether it's flag football, volleyball, basketball, or soccer. So we've tweaked our game rules accordingly to accommodate for that mandatory playing time. Parents must pick up the kids back from their school sites. So we've find it as it's a team building opportunity for the kids to travel to and from their school to the game site and back. And it's just an opportunity for the kids to be together and build teamwork. Each season concludes with the championship day, which involves the third and fourth place game, the consolation game, and the championship game. So we talked about some BMI and agility tests. So every season, at the start of the season, we do 3 agility tests. At the end of the season, we do those same agility tests, and we compare the end of the season to the start of the season, and we see if there's any improvements in how fast they do those agility tests or the distance that we measure. Adventist Health Glendale Foundation, through the Champions for Change, come and collect the BMI information and then report that discreetly. Staff holds onto that information. Even the coaches don't see what that information is. Also, they provide nutrition classes. So what they'll do is they'll do a survey of the kids on what they like drinking, what they like eating, whether it's for snacking or whatever. And then after the health education classes, they'll resurvey the kids and see if there's a change in their behavior. And then we follow that up by a parent survey. So we'll call every participant's home and we'll ask the parents, how did your kid do during the program? Did you see, did they drop in weight? Did their grades improve? Are they eating healthier? Are they choosing to drink water over high fructose drinks? And so on. And then we do a end of the year meeting with our principals and see how the program is progressing throughout the seasons and go from there. Here's some results from those surveys. 95% of the participants actively chose to drink water. Everything is above 93. We could go down. 95% lost weight. 93% actively choose to eat more fruits and vegetables. 98% of the participants improved their listening, both in the classroom and at home. 93% of the kids improved their grades. 99% of the students, participants increased their leadership abilities. 99% of the participants' confidence or self-esteem improved, and 98% of the participants' interaction with fellow students, siblings, and relatives improved. So definitely a great motivating factor for these students. Like we talked about our sports experiences in 2018-19, our students went to a UCLA football game at the Rose Bowl, followed up with a CSUN men's volleyball game at CSUN's Matadome, and then they went to Pauley Pavilion for a UCLA basketball game, and finally to Bank of California Stadium for an LAFC soccer match. And we base who gets to go based on their performance during the program. Are they showing up to every single practice? Are they behaving while at practice? What are their grades? Are their grades being affected in any way, shape, or form? So we'll reach out to the principals and possibly the teachers and say, this person is interested, or we're looking at recruiting this person. Are you guys okay with it? Should they be rewarded with a live game experience? And then go from there. So during championship days, we receive additional support from Crescenta Valley High School's choir. They perform the national anthem at the start of each game or each day. And then Glendale Police Department's Explorer Post comes and presents the colors. They are our color guard. For 2018-19, our actual expenditures are on the screen. We spent $259,794, slight decrease from the previous year, which was $319,000. Part of that is due to staff turnover and vacancies in the program, full-time staff. And that concludes my presentation, if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
No questions, just compliments. This is one of my favorite programs.
Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next is item 8C, section activity reports at 1 Workforce Development.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Wilson, members of the Commission. My name is Judith Velasco. I am the Workforce Administrator of the Community Services and Parks Department. Our section is completely grant funded, where we implement innovative employment programs for the community. So I'm happy to report on a couple of our programs for this fiscal year. In the report, I mentioned specifically funding we received from Los Angeles County to implement for the third year in the row a paid work experience for homeless clients through Measure H funding. This is a successful partnership we have with Park Services, and Coco and his leadership in ONIC have really promoted this program in the city, and we actually are very proud to showcase. So basically what we have done is work with local community-based organizations that work with homeless clients in the community to recruit and identify homeless clients who are ready to go back to work. We provide these clients with the opportunity to be in a work-based learning opportunity at a parks facilities where they learn and train to do basic maintenance cleanup, landscaping. Before they actually go out to the different facilities, they come to our center. We're located at the Verdugo Job Center at 1255 South Central. They come in the morning, they get a light breakfast, and as a team, a cohort of 10 to 13, we transport them to the different parks facility under a leadership of a youth team leader that's paid through with Glendale Youth Alliance. They learn different techniques while they're at the parks facilities. They come back to our facilities for lunch, a debriefing session, and the overall goal of the paid work experience is for them to enter full-time employment. So the first year we implemented this program was July 1st of 2017. We had about 10 participants. Out of the 10 participants, we had a 70% employment rate. The one participant is working at Amazon, one is working as a driver, one completed occupational skills training with us, and one is actually an hourly city worker with the City of Glendale's Park Services Department. This current year that just ended, 18-19, we had 13 participants. 60% of the 13 participants are receiving housing services through agencies or faith-based organizations. I don't have the employment numbers now because they're still working on placement, but as of last week, I believe 60% of the 13 participants are in employment. So we're very happy that we received funding for this new year, that we hope to start recruiting in early October, late September. Again, part of the success of the work-based learning really stems from what we call a wraparound service, that we focus on employment, we focus on basic necessity, the feeding. We also provide hygiene kits, intensive case management. From the employment side, from the field side, really a support system to make sure that the particular individual has all the needs that they have to be successful in the program. So we, again, are fortunate to have third-year round of funding to support another 13 clients for this fiscal year. Another program I would like to highlight that we usually participate every year is our participation in Glendale's Tech Week. So we host a job fair, and this year we'll be hosting one Wednesday, September 18th, from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Downtown Central Library. So we usually have 25 employers in attendance at this job fair. They're all entry-level to middle-skilled positions in the tech field. We usually get around over 350 individuals attend the job fair. It's one of our signature job fairs that we host year-round. We try to host at the Verdugo Job Center at least 3 to 4 signature job fairs, part of the Tech Week, healthcare, manufacturing. So we do industry-based job fairs. As of, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, we had over 150 RSVPs through the City of Glendale's Tech Week website. So we expect, again, equally a high level turnout for the September 18th job fair at Downtown Central Library from 9 a.m. to 11. Looking ahead for this new fiscal year, we continue to receive funding to support work-based learning for different areas of the community with need. We focus with individuals who have different barriers to employment: homeless clients, people with disabilities, English language learners, low-income individuals, as well as youth who are at risk, youth dropouts, and that's what we've been our expertise in. So this year we're going to launch our first ever industry credential in the bioscience field. So we're working with Grifols Biologicals in developing an assessment tool where individuals who take the assessment tool, go through a vocational training, will be certified to become biotech technicians in the field. So we're very excited about bringing that forward to the community. We're going to continue our training in computer numeric control machinist training. I've come before the commission to talk about, it's called Uniquely Abled, but we've since rebranded it to be called the CSC Academy for People with Disabilities, that focuses specifically with people in the autism spectrum disorder, to teach them to become CNC machinists in a very high demand field. We've already had 4 classes successfully complete this training program. We're starting the 5th class in early September, and our success rate for employment has about 80% success rate. So again, the really one thing I wanted to highlight with the computer numeric control machinist training is that we're one of the few workforce boards that focuses for people with disabilities to be connected to a career pathway that leads to sustainable wages. So we're very excited about this program. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the programs I mentioned or any of the services we offer at the Verdugo Job Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 8C2, Human Services.
Good afternoon. President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Parks Commission. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Senior Services Committee, and I'm here to present the first year update of the Senior Services Committee. I'm going to give you a little background and history. In May 2017, the Senior Services staff was asked to conduct a feasibility study and report back to the city manager to see if a Senior Services Committee had been available in the past, or would it be something that could be revisited in the future. And in September of 2017, the city staff did a senior needs assessment, a citywide senior needs assessment, where we sent out surveys and had focus group meetings. And in February of 2018, we came to the Parks Commission and we presented that senior needs assessment to you. And we had our findings, and in April of 2018, City Council approved that senior needs assessment, and we presented it with 6 key recommendations. 2 of those recommendations have already been fulfilled, which is approving the formation of the Senior Services Committee, and the second one was to become a member of AARP Network of Age-Friendly Cities. All 6 key recommendations are here posted. As you can see, number 2 and number 6 have been fulfilled since then, and we, as a committee, they wanted to focus on number 1, 3, 4, and 5. So a little background on the formation of the committee. It was a coordination between the CSP staff, and the decision was made to have a 13-member committee serving a 2-year term. We have 5 members from the field of gerontology and aging services. We have 4 city staff who sit on the committee, 3 hospital representatives, and 1 senior rep. In fiscal year 18-19, we met 4 times, quarterly meetings on Thursdays at the Adult Recreation Center, and those are the dates for our first year's meetings. Here's a list of our 13-member committee. Camille Levy is our chair, and Carolyn Young is our vice chair of the Senior Services Committee. And this week on Thursday, we will meet for fiscal year 2019 and 20, and we will elect our officers again. So for 1819, the goal, we had certain goals for 1819, and the real truth is it was the six key recommendations that the committee focused on. So they wanted to review those recommendations, prioritize them, and then develop a strategic plan on those 6 key recommendations. Here's a picture of some of our committee members. There's our chair, Ms. Levy. And we had 2 of our committee members who came up and presented the save the date for the emergency preparedness event. Ms. Marie Philippian and Juan Gonzalez were here today earlier. So on August 23rd, we had our very first meeting where we nominated a chair and vice chair. We had a discussion of our goals and expectations and those 6 key recommendations. The following meeting, we asked Peter Zovak, our Assistant Director of Housing, to come and give a presentation to the committee to explain what the Housing Division offered and what was in Glendale, because our key recommendation number 1 was finding housing alternatives for seniors. The committee voted to table that recommendation until City Council made a decision on the Measure H and the right to lease. But they did vote to prioritize key recommendation 3, 4, and 5 and focus on that in the first year. On February 28th, they focused on key recommendation number 3, and we had a presentation from our committee member, Captain Andrew Gano of the Fire Department, and he presented on the 12 steps to emergency preparedness. And the committee voted to coordinate a citywide event that's going to be held on October 5th of this year. And city staff is currently working with the committee to put and coordinate the event. On May 30th, we had our last meeting of the year. And again, we discussed key recommendations 3, 4, and 5, and to assign each member a table and duties for the coordination of the citywide emergency preparedness event. We also discussed, we wanted direction and wanted focus on the healthcare and caregiver support training in the upcoming fiscal year. And then we also had committee direction to research a senior scam stoppers event with the Glendale Police Department. So those are the 3 things that we are going to be working on. We have some upcoming events happening in the coming year. We're going to have Ms. Yvette Sanvelian from Homeless Services come and present. The committee really wants to know about the growing senior homeless population, and since we had our point-in-time homeless count, we're going to get some information from her this week. The committee is continuing to work to coordinate the emergency preparedness event. We're also going to be having a presentation on dial-a-ride and beeline services for our members. And then, of course, the Senior Scam Stoppers event will be taking place in January 2020. In conclusion, basically we will be going to City Council on August 27th to present our first year update, just as we are with you today. But the most important takeaway I think we all learned from this first year was the importance of gathering and sharing the information from our committee members, and then they would take that information back to their seniors that they serve. So it was one of the best experiences for all of them. At least that's the feedback we've received so far from our first year. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, 8C3, Recreation and Community Services.
Good afternoon again, President Pro Tem Wolfson, members of the Commission. So I'm going to do the monthly activity report for the month of July for our recreation and community centers. So we'll start with our biggest event of the year, Glendale Cruise Night. 26th Annual Glendale Cruise Night was held on Saturday, July 20th, 2019 from 5:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. This year's event featured 292 pre-1985 classic cars and attracted over 40,000 people. The department, as always, during this event on the south side of Brand Boulevard, our recreation staff typically have the Glendale Rocks climbing wall, our mobile recreation package, and we had that going on as well. One new feature was our new 15-foot LED screen that was also on that side of the street. We actually doing a live broadcast. We were presenting the live broadcast feed on our new LED screen on the south side of the street so that we could tie the north and south end of the event together. That was pretty successful. People were liking it. The climbing wall might have been too loud. Those were around it because of the noise, but everything was good with that. So we were excited we were able to bring that this year. As we had mentioned during the previous commission meeting, July is Parks Make Life Better Month. And in celebration of July is Parks Make Life Better Month, we had our summer dive-in movie at Pacific Community Pool. So this was held on July 13, 2019. It attracted over 185 people. About 80 of them were actually inside the pool watching the night's flick, which was Disney's Moana. Very popular. We were at capacity in terms of safety and everything like that for the evening. So. Also for July is Parks Make Life Better Month. We brought back for the third time in a row Let's Play Day, which is our day camp Let's Play Day, where we collect all of our day camps, bring into Pacific Community Center for an afternoon of water play, inflatable obstacle course, a 3-in-1 feature, tug of war, and treats and water. And the kids just had a blast for the 2.5 hours they were there. Summer concerts in the park. July 10 is when summer concerts in the park began. So we had 4 concerts during the month of July. They all took place at Verdugo Park on the north end on every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We were averaging about 400 participants per summer concert, with the most popular one in July being the 80s music night with the Breakfast Club. Programs at community centers. So while 3 of the community centers were hosting day camps, the Adult Recreation Center and Spar Heights Community Center celebrated Independence Day on July 3. The Adult Recreation Center also had its ping pong tournament, hosted an AARP driver safety class, did a on-site registration for CalFresh, as well as distribute Hollywood Bowl tickets to seniors, both at ARC and at Spar Heights Community Center, where the department applies for discounted Hollywood Bowl tickets. We actually don't pay for the tickets, we just pay for a application fee, and then we turn around and take those tickets and distribute it to our activity card holders at each of our community centers. And we also, during the month of end of June, July, we also passed out over 80 additional farmers market coupons through the nutritional meals program. So we had issued out, given out 185 already. We had 80 seniors on a wait list. We asked for more. The county granted us more farmers market coupons, and we passed those out as well. Some more pictures from our events. Therapeutic Recreation during July, their monthly themed gathering was how to eat healthy. So the participants learned about how to make healthier eating choices, fruit snacks, and then they turned around and made fruit kebabs, fruit skewers, so they could enjoy eating them and have fun. Our Youth and Family Services section continued their monthly or bi-weekly teen night out meetings at Pacific Community Center. In addition to that, they also attended Cruise Night, where they were able to promote My Glendale Teens, the Instagram channel that this section is responsible for. Also, during the month of July, we had a clean and healthy teeth workshop at Pacific Community Center as well. Our STAR program, Students Training as Role Models partnership program with Glendale Police Department, had their weekly meetings at Pacific Community Center, and towards the end of July, they went to Camp Cedar Falls for their annual camping trip, an overnight trip. They went on Thursday morning, 7 a.m., came back Friday night. There, they were able to do horseback riding, a lot of hiking, archery, bow and arrow, and other camp-related activities. The kids had a blast. Our Trails and Open Space program had its monthly Wilderness Workday and Riverwalk Workday at Glendale Narrows Riverwalk and at Tukmejian Wilderness Park. And they also had their campfire program for July themed I Will Survive, where they were talking about readiness whether it's hiking or being at home, how to pack if you're going to go on a day hiking trip, what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. Program attracted 48 people, started at 6:30 with crafts, and then campfire songs, skits, and games starting at 7 p.m. That concludes our activities during the month of July, if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, 8C4, Park Services.
President Pro Tem, members of Commission, we just have the written report today. I had a feeling it'd be a long meeting, so we'll be presenting the projects next month. For the written report, in the month of July, we completed 134 work orders, 68 by groundskeepers and 66 by the irrigation repair crew, for a total labor hours of 955 hours. So next month, we have quite a few projects to show you, and if you have any questions about anything we've done within this report, I'd be happy to address them for you.
I do not have any questions. Anyone else?
We'll look forward to one of your other multimedia presentations.
We shall be prepared.
Nothing else? We're adjourned.
The